What's happening? Today on Eat Like a Local, I'm gonna give you one guess what we're gonna talk about. Oysters. We're gonna talk about caviar. We're gonna talk about Gulf Coast seafood. We're at a couple of the newer seafood restaurants in the city that I'm a big fan of. Right today, we're gonna talk about Little's. We're gonna talk about Josephine's. Let's go check them out. Today we're gonna start off at Little's Oyster Bar, right on Shepherd. Used to be Papa's Little Seafood House. They reconcepted it, brought in a chef from California, Jason Rychek, who is super, super talented. Processes his own caviar. That is amazing. Understands oysters and how they should be dealt with. Wine list here, beautiful. This is a good one. This is a place Lindsay and I have come in just before like going to the ballet.
Yeah.
Right, we'll come in and post up at the bar, get some oysters, a shrimp cocktail, because what is it, the pomegranate cocktail sauce?
Yeah.
That's delicious. Knowing West Coast seafood to Gulf Coast seafood. How hard of a transition is that?
Not very. I guess because I'm excited about it. It's been fun. It's just different water in a different way, different fish, different styles, an opportunity to just really delve into a whole new palette of seafood. The stone crab with Captain Fred, it's one of the things I'm so excited about is people who've been here their whole lives are finding out that our stone crab is from Galveston. Then you try the product and you're like, this is the best stone crab I've ever had.
Yeah,
I can't believe how good this is. The yellow edge grouper, that like blew me away. The way that it allows me to show off how good fish can be to some people who may not realize it, and then for those aficionados who know it, to be so impressed by the fact that we're able to source it.
That would be me, actually. You had to learn a new realm of oysters for the most part, too.
The amount of good Gulf oysters I've gotten to try since I've been here has been growing every week. Getting to try different oysters from all along the Gulf Coast and seeing smaller oysters with more brine and still that Gulfy plumpness that, with the right salinity is beautiful.
Yeah, because you start talking about all the way through Texas waters, up around through Florida Panhandle, you guys are creating them all the way up through Canada.
Yeah, so the goal is to have a Canadian, a North Atlantic, a Mid-Atlantic, and a Gulf. It's allowed us to really showcase this one species of oyster and take you on a trip from north to south into where we're at.
And I don't think many people explain it that way either. Oyster vacation route.
Yeah.
And you're gonna taste those flavor profiles.
Yeah, let's go take a dip in Chesapeake Bay.
To actually see what an oyster looks like from different regions, being the same genus, this is a beautiful way to take a look at this.
So this is a fortune from Nova Scotia.
So Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
So super cold water, pretty much year-round.
And what you get a lot of that far north is glacier melt, and the difference in glacier melt to brine is even though it's a measure of salinity, you get the clean salt from the ocean water because of the water that's melting in. So even though there are vegetal notes, this one is just crisp, sharp, real high salinity. It's very cold, clean, refreshing.
I'm gonna see the waters for what they are. And that is everything you said. Sea mist, salty, blunt and sweet.
That's beautiful to have with a sip of champagne.
The wine list that you guys have put together for this program is absolutely perfection.
So this is Cobb's Island from Connecticut. And so this one, more in the Sweetwater, you can really see the variation in not just shape, but color. But because it's in the Sweetwater, it's less briny. So you get a little bit more of the vegetal notes. It's springy, it's meaty. And then, really for us, this is our workhorse at this time of year. This is a Jerry's from the Gulf of Texas. Now, if you just look and see how different that meat structure is. Oysters along the Gulf, because they're plump and meaty, have better size retention when you cook them. So if you want a grilled oyster, baked oyster, fried oyster, that's the one to go with.
You're starting to see more and more caviar in restaurant menus, but very few have the thought process of what you're doing.
I was cooking a post-caviar production sturgeon, and I just found a way that I was able to do something that doesn't really do, which is flake. The owner of a caviar company came in and didn't know. And she was up there and she's like, I gotta talk to the chef. She's like, this is the best sturgeon. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. She's like, no, like, I've been making caviar since the 80s. I own a company and I'd really like to work with you and show you what we do. And that's when I met Deborah Keene, who owns California Caviar Company. She said, hey, a couple of these chefs are gonna come make caviar. Do you wanna make some for your restaurant? I was like, I gotta go back and run serves. I'll take the first fish, didn't pick it or anything, and ended up getting the best yield, quality-wise, amount-wise, out of this one sturgeon. And the other chefs are older, like, kind of like, can't believe it, beginner's luck. I'm like, yeah, no kidding, beginner's luck. And so now, a handful of the chefs go out to do biopsy on the fish. So do you want to pick the fish you're going to make caviar out of? I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And then once we bring them back, we go through fish from, say, like 1 to 10. Pick the, as we go through row to row, how delicate is it? What salt, what percentage? Where are we going with this after we clean it?
Having the story and the experience to do this, there's very few people that can have that. So I commend you for that. That's awesome. Congrats.
I really try to keep it as affordable as possible because I want to see it move, but I also want that introduction for somebody, you know, enjoy it and experience it. Let me talk you through it. You know, I get them to pearl the caviar where they're using their tongue to roll the pearls around the roof of their mouth and really get the complexity of it. You get the earthy aromas on your palate, but it can have this clean, beautiful post-drain earthiness. And so that's the start of it. And then as the fat coats your mouth, it goes into the buttery stage. And then the last part is like my favorite way to take somebody home to the Pacific coast for me. It's oceanic, but it's not deep. It's not low tide. It's like standing on a jetty and getting a face full of cold ocean mist.
This over here is your caviar.
Yeah, so...
how cool is that? How cool is that to say that?
You know, it's pretty cool. I love it.
You've taken this to a different level.
One of the things I've always been big on with my caviar sets is the traditional caviar accoutrements are traditional because they're made to hide the flavor of bad caviar. But how can we have fun and like highlight caviar? If I'm gonna make caviar, I don't wanna hide the flavor of it. I wanted to play with some things that I thought would make the caviar stand out or just be fun to eat while you're having caviar. Fried potato dumplings, hush puppies, radish butter, onion jam. I wanted it to be approachable enough for people to have fun with it.
Yeah. This is a place where you should come and experience this on a Sunday evening, right?
Yeah.
You should experience it on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. And I think that's a beauty of this restaurant. It doesn't matter what day you're here or what time slot you're in. It's good. So what should you order here at Little's? Oysters for sure. Caviar service, stone crab claws that are coming out of our local waters. That grouper, no matter what the set is, that grouper's cooked perfectly. The chicken fried snapper, perfect. So since moving to Houston, have you gotten like your local restaurants and places you like to go eat at?
Lucas at Josephine's, that's the one restaurant where I sat down and had close to a whole meal since we've been open.
Yeah, funny you say that because we're going to Josephine's next.
Nice.
We're at Josephine's. I'm so excited about this place. I worked in the past with a lot of the staff here. Lucas McKinney, who's the chef, is a dear friend of mine and one of the most talented cooks I've ever met. And what he focuses on is Gulf Coast seafood. All of the culture. He's from Mississippi. He's grown up with crab boils, crawfish boils. His food is just outstanding. Let's check it out. I'm excited about this one. You ready? You're a Gulf Coast boy.
Yeah.
True and true.
Born and raised.
Mississippi.
Yes, sir.
You grew up with the redfish, snapper, speckled trout, oysters, shrimp,
Yeah.
crab. Like
Throwing parties, eating crabs, crawfish boils.
It's kind of history for you.
Right. When we started talking about this restaurant, we wanted to embrace what is it like when you spread from New Orleans either way, right? You're going east or west, ending up in Beaumont, ending up in Mobile,
Yeah.
Pensacola. You know, how do they cook? How do their recipes look?
Half of the dishes on this menu, if not more, all have stories behind them.
They do. At the end of the day, when you got to come and do something every day, shucking oysters, being able to support local fishermen, doing things that you grew up on and you're familiar with, it just makes sense, right?
We got cold beer, we got some Gulf oysters.
We do.
got-
Some stone crab claws.
Which is, I don't think people truly understand that like stone crabs basically just migrated over.
Right.
They came over, now they're in our waters.
Actually, in the restaurant, we get a lot of people that don't believe that these are from Texas.
Yeah, this right here is definitely Captain Fred out
Yeah.
crabbing for stone crabs.
He's one of the only guys doing it, I believe, in the Gulf.
I mean, you get Mr. Jimmy Shrimp, you get
Right.
Captain Fred's crabs, like,
Right.
you know where your redfish is coming from. So where are your oysters coming from?
Everything that is being done in the Gulf right now is really amazing with the oysters, in my opinion. So, the guys at Murder Point have led the way for like the last 13, 15 years. But in the last 5 years, right, you've seen farms open in Mississippi and Texas.
The Texas thing was a huge win.
The Barrier Beauties that are coming out of Galveston, the Capono Unos coming out of Corpus Christi, Matagorda Pearls, those are all three that we kind of get very often coming from Texas. Even right down the road from here, Galveston, San Luis Pass, those guys, with Prestige Oysters, they're doing it great.
I think that Texas oysters kind of get the bad rap, right? They're giant. Well, not anymore.
Right. So right now we have some Prestige. These are Capono Unos, and then Matagorda Pearls, suspended rays, and then wild caught. The Matagorda Pearls, that you're looking at right now, are a little bit smaller, petite, but a little deeper cup than the Caponos. The farmers can make them however they want, right? By whatever techniques they implement.
So let's talk about suspended column. So this is your wild oyster, right?
Right.
You kind of see bigger shells, more stuff. Right?
Kind of just like randomly shaped.
Before it was like wild oysters only, dredging. Now it's leased lands, but we can actually farm oysters in certain areas and raising the seed. And once they get to a certain size, it's on a netting system that has these just a plastic sock where they're putting the oysters in, and what's happening is instead of oysters like the wild oysters, which are submerged, they're down at the bottom of the bay. These guys come up every time the high and low tide happens. And so they're getting that fresh air. I mean, they're literally coming out of water and like, hey, what's up? And then like, okay, it's time, I'm hot. They go back down to the water, and the highest form of salinity in these brackish waters is in the top part. And so they're just getting flushed with that high salinity. And that's just beautiful. I mean, this is all sustainable right here, which 100%. Is pretty amazing.
As long as you put back and you support that, then we'll still have it for years to come. Why we buy oysters from who we buy them from, right?
It does matter.
It matters. So here we got some local blue crabs. So these just got dropped off from Captain Fred, caught in Galveston Bay. The fun family aspect of this restaurant is digging into some crabs and opening them up. I really don't hate coming out and doing a tutorial on how to pick blue crabs ever. It's always kind of a fun interaction with the guests, and
the top of it off, and then you just start to break off the little sections.
Right. You get a perfect little pool, and it's super nostalgic for me just because I remember, in high school getting out senior year, early release, and my uncle calling me, and, we'd go check blue crab traps, and, if we caught a lot, it would end up just us sitting around having a little party on a Wednesday, and that's what we wanted to lean into with this restaurant. It's just, that's about as Gulf Coast as I can get,
This is something we can sit for hours and hours and hours and hours and do. All right, so let's talk redfish dips, because it's also...
So we're getting some redfish out of Polashes, farm raised, super sustainable product.
I mean, they're big chunks of happy. This, I get textures and pieces of flavor.
Yeah, so we smoke it in-house. We just simply pick it and dress it to order. You get more of those blasts of like where the fish actually caught that smoke and absorbed it, right? Instead of paddling it and it just being kind of
homogenous.
Yeah.
This is the greatest thing that's ever happened to a saltine in its existence.
Deep frying them, tossing them in ranch powder, just because, right? Growing up, my mom would take them, a Ziploc bag, a little bit of oil, chili flakes, a little, granulated garlic, all that good stuff in there. Oh yeah.
It's always the little things that make the big picture.
Deep frying it, adding a little fat to it, and it cuts through that lemon remoulade real nice. And right now we are working with one of our local purveyors, and we're doing a lot of snapper collars, which makes me happy every time we sell out. It's kind of something that people overlook.
You got that whole fish, you come in behind the collar.
Right behind the collar, and fillet it, right?
Over the belly, and then straight down this backbone, and you release the fillet on both sides, and then you just kind of throw the fish away, right? Or you make stock or whatever. But like, how many people actually
take the time to cut it out? Not many.
Not many.
It definitely brings me back to like working at marinas, growing up in Biloxi. We'd save the collars and have a little cookout after all the tourists leave.
This is the snapper collars that we talked about. I mean, look how big. Like, and meaty that is.
Right.
Right? And that's
So,
so basically this is just wraps around the head like this.
Right, correct.
Right, and that's its fin. And this is the piece that most people just,
Right.
And you're missing all this.
Correct.
Some of the best parts of the fish. If you like
100%.
chicken thighs, chicken legs, oxtails, I think
Any of
ribs,
those offcuts,
like
yeah.
chicken wings, like
100%.
this is the fish part for you.
Right.
There is literally so much meat on here.
Right. And I like to just take the two ends and just twist it, kind of like a chicken thigh, you know?
Just look at that.
And it comes right apart. And then you just eat it like a wing or
All really good. I see fried stuff.
just a crawfish beignet, some yeasted dough. You know, there's still all that bounty after crawfish season.
Fried dough with crawfish in it and spiciness equals happiness.
Right.
I think a lot of people get in like, well, it's not crawfish season.
Buying frozen crawfish outside of crawfish season is totally okay
And delicious.
and very good. I mean, they do all the work to pick it and save it and, you know, process it the right way so that we can enjoy it the rest of the year. And on the other hand, though, this is some fresh blue crab, right?
So what is this?
So we have our Biloxi Van Cleve po' boy in front of us right here.
What is a Biloxi Van Cleve po' boy?
So this is a sandwich I kind of grew up on eating. Me and my grandfather would go and get this po' boy all the time. It is a traditional po' boy from Biloxi. It's traditionally pressed. We don't press it here, but we like to serve it on the fresh bun. But
So the bun is from where?
Leidenheimer in New Orleans.
And then you've got a smashed, like really good seared, crispy crab cake. American cheese, beautiful. Goes against all things that are normal, and I
Right.
love it. And then dressed like a po' boy.
Yep.
Lettuce,
Tomato,
pickles.
pickles.
I think when you first told me about this, I was like, what? And maybe I shouldn't call it. I was like, no, you absolutely have to call it that.
Right. And we went back and forth on calling it just like a crab meat po' boy, but it is truly exactly what it is. And there's a great story behind it.
Speaking of stories, I need you to tell me the story of the name, Josephine.
So Josephine, it was my great grandmother. Her father was a pretty integral part of, kind of growing the Biloxi maritime industry. They were working in the seafood factories, working on boats, he made castanets. They were Slavonian immigrants, Croatian immigrants from the Dalmatian coast. That was a very big integral part of the seafood industry back in the day, was that migration of people from the Mediterranean. My family was a little piece of that, and so we like to honor it.
And it's a beautiful thing to have when you can have that. I want to try a peanut pie.
Let's do it. It's a pretty wicked pie.
So peanut pie,
Right.
done in the thought process of a pecan pie? Am I reading this right?
The thought process behind it was, growing up in the South back in the day, you'd get out of, working in the seafood factory, your hands would be dirty. You go get a local soda, especially Barks Root Beer, which was first bottled in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Really?
Yeah, but it's just a super southern soda that you put your peanuts in the soda and then you chug the soda. And so I've always loved that combo. Barks Root Beer is like my grandfather's favorite thing in the world, one of my favorite things. So we took that concept and made a pie with it. House-made ice cream, tacky, sweet. There's peanut butter in the pie crust and in the filling, and then peanuts on top. And then a Barks Root Beer caramel on top.
Bub, this may be one of my favorite bites lately.
Oh yeah. It's probably one of my favorite things on the menu.
It tells a story and represents everything about your childhood and you growing up. And
Yeah, it brings me back real fast.
that crust is stupidly good.
Yeah. And like I said, we did it.
What,
We only did it a couple times, and when we put the peanut butter in the actual crust filling, it really solidified it. We found a huge collection of Corel plates, which is like, right, you know, super nostalgic, brings you back to your grandmother's house. So we serve all our desserts on old china like that.
You should. That is awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
I absolutely freaking love peanut butter and root beer and ice cream.
Yeah.
And like my wife, not gonna touch this. She's just, she doesn't like sweets
Lindsay
anyway.
doesn't
like I'll order one or two things. She'll take one bite. I wouldn't let her take a bite of this.
Yeah, no. You know, and that's the fun part. We have people order it, you know, not to share.
This is gonna make me come back tonight.
Yeah. I mean,
don't ever take this off of me.
it won't.
A lot of people say, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee or coffee. I'm just, from now on, like, let's go grab some peanut pie. That might be my new move.
Yeah.
Someone's like, hey, you got time to grab a cup of coffee? No, you got time for a slice
Instead
of
of
pie?
house
Let's
pie.
go over to Josephine's and have a peanut pie and a
Yeah.
coffee. We can talk all day.
Yeah.
I might get some beignets or some hush puppies, too. All right, what to get here at Josephine's? Oysters for sure. Redfish dip, one of the best smoked fish dips I've had. Anything from the boil pot. Shrimp, crabs, crawfish soon. Get yourself a po' boy, you deserved it. And then that peanut pie, fantastic. Other places you should check out. Navy Blue, yes. State of Grace, fantastic. Brennan's of Houston, I worked there for 9 years, truly love it, love what they do, delicious. Today on Eat Like a Local, what we learned, right? 2 delicious seafood places, right? A lot of it focusing in on the waters that we have here, through our crabs, through our oysters, through our fish. Josephine, Chef Lucas here is doing fantastic work. We've known each other for a long time. He's just really good at what he does. And over at Little's Oyster Bar, Jason Rychek is crushing the game, right? Harvesting his own caviar, bringing in and sourcing some sustainable seafood that's really fantastic as well. So we want to hear where you're eating too. So hit us up on Instagram at EatLikeALocalTX. Tell us where you're eating. We want to come see what you see. All right? See you then. Gotta go. If you don't like root beer, I just may not like you.
Right.
Haha, sucker.